You're looking for a beautiful nanofish with cichlid-like behavior, but something that's a little bit different. Something that maybe you could keep successfully with shrimp. It may sound too good to be true, but this community fish is real, and in my opinion, it's the Peacock Gudgeon. Coming in at a max size of around 3 inches, the Peacock Gudgeon was originally described in 1955 in the journal American Museum Notates in a piece titled 2 New Freshwater Fishes from New Guinea on pages 4 to 6, I found on the Biodiversity Heritage Library. This article was written by John Treadwell Nichols, an American ichthyologist who wrote about the fourth arc-billed expedition of New Guinea of 1953. In this he writes, "The fourth arc-billed expedition to New Guinea of 1953 brought a collection of freshwater fishes to the American Museum of Natural History which contains 2 species that seem to have not been previously described." Mr. Nichols described them in a new genus that he called Tateurndina. John described this new genus as small eclectic gobies with 7 or more rays in the first dorsal, large conical teeth in the front of each jaw, head and body well compressed, head small, blunt, eye rather large, forward, its diameter about equaling the convex interorbital, snout short, mouth small and oblique. Now, while the text description seems rather detailed, on the drawing of the Peacock Gudgeon, I don't know if it was you, I don't know if you had help, maybe you had a child that drew this for you. I feel like you could have done a little bit better. I'm rocking with this whole like equaling the convex of the interorbital and all that stuff. Like when I don't understand the words that you're writing down, it feels like you know what you're talking about. When I'm looking at this picture, try again, buddy. The full taxonomic name of the Peacock Gudgeon is Tateurndina Ocellicauda. He says, "The name of the genus was credited to 2 brothers, Geoffrey and George Tate. In naming this genus Tateurndina, attention is called to the material addition to knowledge of the fauna of the New Guinea area, which should be credited to the labors of 2 brothers, Geoffrey M. Tate and George H. Tate." The brothers were botanists and mammalogists that did work finding some fish, some cool little fishes like the Peacock Gudgeons in Papua New Guinea. My understanding is that the second part of that name is broken into 2 parts. So Ocellicauda, oceli means little eye or eye-like spot, and then cauda equals tail. And I guess that's got to be something similar to the caudal tail. We say the caudal tail of a fish, so cauda, that kind of tracks for me. You basically are left there with something along the lines of the eye-spotted tail. They found the Peacock Gudgeons in eastern Papua New Guinea in pools of intermittent streams 10 miles from the coast at an altitude about 50 meters. In August 24th, 1953, they were collected by Hobart van Dusen of the Archibald expedition. The place they were found in was pretty remote, and I had a hard time finding good pictures of it, but I did find this biotope aquarium entry, which shows what it could look like in the waters there. It also lists a few potential parameters of the river and tank mates and plants that occur there, so I'll link this biotope entry in the description. I think it's pretty cool. Notably, Pseudomugil Furcatus, the fork-tailed blue-eyed rainbow fish, is also from this region, so if you're hoping to make a biotope tank, there's a little bit of inspiration for you. But as you can tell, the Peacock Gudgeons have been in the hobby for a while. Their breeding behaviors were described in the July edition of the Tropical Fish Hobbyist magazine all the way in 1988 by Meadows R. and Meadows. It was titled Breeding the Beautiful Peacock Gudgeon. So if anyone has the July 1988 edition of the Tropical Fish Hobbyist magazine, please feel free to brag about it in the comments. I think it's pretty cool. You have what may be the first description of how the Peacock Gudgeons breed. And speaking of breeding, that's one of my favorite things about the Peacock Gudgeons. They are pretty easy to breed. Figuring out if you have a pair is pretty straightforward. The sexual dimorphism for these guys is generally the females have a black outline on their bottom fins that the males do not. The males also have a nucal hump. So if you look here at their head, you'll see that it has a pretty distinct shape, and side by side, it is an unmistakable difference. Though just in case, I have had a male that had a touch of black on the bottom, so just keep an eye out for that, but it's pretty uncommon and it wasn't a full outline. I breed them using 3/4 inch PVC pipes, although I have had them breed under leaves or just in other kind of little caves. They're cave spawners for the most part. The male will go find his potential mate and chat him up a little bit. You know, how's it going? How's the weather? Would you like to come back to this PVC pipe with me? Cool. All right, let's go. Once they get inside the pipe, they'll lay eggs at the top and kind of on the sides of the top. After the eggs are laid, the male will be responsible for guarding the fortress, the castle that is the PVC pipe, and protect the eggs from fungus by fanning them, keeping them oxygenated, and also protect them against any potential snackers. After a few days, the eggs will hatch, and you'll see that the fry will stick there to the top still, wiggling around, and that is them just chilling out while they feed off of their egg sac yolk. Once that stage is complete, after another couple of days, depending on your temperatures, the fry will venture out a little bit outside the cave and the area surrounding. For me, they usually hang out there about a day before going further up in the aquarium. And then after that, really the only thing on you is raising the fry. The fry are pretty small. For me, they've been able to do well off of vinegar eels and crushed foods and things like that for the first few days. But also, they're relatively good at surviving. So I've had some success with breeding the fry and leaving them in there with the parents. I think it's nice in something like a 20 high, although I think a 20 long even is probably enough space. Just basically the fry will go up higher than the adults typically do. The adults typically hang out in the bottom to mid section of the tank unless they're going up to eat something that's falling down. But you know, the fry will go off and leave enough space with the adults that they seem to be able to grow up just fine. I mean, I definitely get more than enough Peacock Gudgeon babies out of it to be happy. But if you want to optimize numbers, you're definitely going to want to pull the eggs at some point. You could wait until they're in the wiggler stage on top of the roof. I get like a cup full of water and then put the cave in that cup and then take it out just so they're never outside of water. That's something you could do if you wanted to kind of maximize your numbers. The temperament of these guys is very peaceful. I mean, there'll be a little bit of posturing and territorialness between them as far as breeding goes, but even when they're guarding a cave, it's not that bad. I've had multiple pairs in 20 high, in a 10 gallon, and it is not as aggressive as a lot of other things that spawn this way. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't give them a little bit more space just to make sure everything is as comfortable as possible, but just good to know that you can actually keep them while they're breeding with other fish, given that they have enough space. They've been in the hobby a long time, and for me personally, they make a great community fish. I've put them with all sorts of things, and it's rarely the Peacock Gudgeons that are the problem. Oftentimes, it's another fish that's being too aggressive or too territorial. Now, it's not to say that they won't stand up for themselves. The Peacock Gudgeons are definitely not pushovers, but I'll just say that in my experience, it's more likely that they are not the problem in the relationship. They really don't bother a lot of other fish. They're not particularly nippy in my experience, and you can combine them with all sorts of tetras and rasbors, and even the right dwarf cichlid could work. It's just good to know that if we're on the aggression chart, they are not super duper aggressive. So they could get bullied by a fish that is just doing a little too much. And honestly, there's not really that much to it. They're easy to take care of and accept a really wide variety of parameters. If we want to go off of aqua addiction, they say that the ideal temperature range is 72 to 79 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 22 to 26 degrees Celsius, with a pH of 6.0 to 7.8. So you can see that they're pretty adaptable to a wide range, and usually with these ranges you can go a bit outside of that. So I don't think that they'd have an issue with a little bit harder water either. Luckily, this is one fish that's actually aquacultured quite a bit, I believe, over in Asia. So if you're someone that's trying to avoid fish that are wild caught, this is a pretty reliably aquacultured fish. And that's one of the reasons this is like an 8 out of 10 fish for me. I mean, they're beautiful with yellows, reds, even blues, like a turquoise blue in there, and they're easy to fit into different size tanks, different community mixes, and what else could you really ask for in a fish? They're interesting to watch. They're personable. They'll come up, at least mine will come up and flare at me and say hi to me when I walk up to the tank. So yes, that's the 8 out of 10 fish for me. Peacock Gudgeon is excellent. And that's really all there is to it. So if you're interested in Peacock Gudgeons, if you've had experiences with them, please comment below any questions or just share with other people what you've learned in keeping them so we can all kind of learn together. I appreciate it. As always, you guys, I know I've been a little ghost. It's been a few months. I have isopod videos coming, so if you're looking for that, I got those. Please stop sending mail to my house. I will release the isopod footage. No, but seriously, I'm working on a lot of stuff. I'll try to be more consistent. You know, it's hard for me to keep those kind of promises, but my heart's in the right place. So comment below anything that you know that I'm keeping breeding you'd like me to go further into. I'll keep doing these intro videos, and that's in my tanks. Out.